Hi everyone, Chicken here. Welcome to Chapter 3, Planning and Composition. In this chapter, I will go through how I come up with ideas for painting and draft them in thumbnail sketches. In this lesson, we will start with composition rules and some tips to make an illustration look more interesting. In character art, our main subject or focal point will be our character. So our aim is to position our camera and everything else around the character in a way that is aesthetically pleasing and draws the viewer's attention to the character. There is a video that summarizes various composition rules on YouTube that I think explains everything really well, and I'll leave the link to that video in the class notes. But for this lesson, I'll talk about the main rules I use and how I use them. Firstly, the rule of thirds. Simply put, if we draw a 3x3 grid on a canvas, your subject should be placed in either of these cross sections. Even if I have different dimensions, this rule will still apply. If you want to take this further, you can have a secondary focal point or subject, and it can be placed at the opposite end of the grid. For example, if our main character sits here, then we should place our secondary subject here. And if our main subject is here, our secondary subject can go up here. You can see how I utilize the rule of thirds in these paintings. They may not be perfectly lined up, but it acts as a really good guide. The next rule is about balance. When we look at a painting, there's the visual weight that each subject can have. The visual weight just refers to the amount of attention a subject draws to itself. For example, if I sketch this out, we can see that the visual weight is very heavy on the right side and there's no sense of balance. But if we switch the background the other way, that looks a lot nicer because the visual weight is distributed more evenly throughout the painting. You can see here in these examples, if my character is on the right, then the visual weight of the background will be more distributed to the left, and vice versa. If I flip the background or the character, we can see that it becomes not so balanced. Similarly, we can balance the foreground elements as well. This time, let's center our character. And if I put all the foreground elements on the right side of the painting, it doesn't look too good. But if I switch this bottom part from right to left, we will get a more even distribution and visual weight. We can see that being done in these paintings. My character here holds most of the visual weight, so on the other side of the painting will be where I concentrate the foreground elements. I also have these examples here with the character centered. With the foreground elements on one side, the visual weight looks off. But when we switch it to the other side, everything looks more balanced. Same for this example. The difference may be subtle, but they'll improve your drawing by a lot. That being said, unless you are deliberately going for symmetry in a painting, the visual weight does not have to be exactly even. In fact, sometimes it can look a bit weird. If I have my character here, and we draw our mountain as tall as she is, it won't look good. when things are on the same level, they can kind of compete for our eyes' attention. So in this case, because our character is the main focal point, I will make her taller and more prominent, and the mountains in the background can be shorter. This is kind of related to the rule of thirds too. And the last composition rule I use a lot is the use of different layers of ground. Most significantly, the use of foregrounds in a painting. Especially in character art, it can be a very quick and easy way to frame your subject nicely. You can see that I use this in almost all my paintings. Usually they are plant elements, but sometimes it's water droplets or bubbles. Not only will they give your painting a more organic and active feel, but they can very easily turn a boring composition into something interesting. And for the placement of the foreground elements, I usually put the bulk of it in the corners, as that is usually where it frames our character best. And we can use the previous rules to guide us on which corner to place them on. For the background, we can have different layers of ground too. Like this example, where there are many different layers of rocks, some are closer and some are further away. Or this example, where there's many layers to the background that give us a sense of space. And again, we can refer to our previous rules to decide where to place each element. In this lesson, we learned about some basic composition rules and how to use them to create a nice scene. In the next lesson, we will try to apply these concepts and use references to come up with thumbnail sketches.